From Michigan.
I yield the gentleman from California such time as he may consume.
Gentleman is recognized.
Thank you. I thank the ranking member. I thank the chair. Appreciate the fact that this bill being brought forward. Madam Speaker, I know there's very little being brought forward, but at least we have something to discuss today. And I have to agree with my colleague that we wish the general tax cut could something that we hear all around the American people want us to talk about. But this is an item that hasn't been talked about enough anywhere. And I want to thank my colleague from New Mexico for co-sponsoring this with me. And I want to congratulate the gentleman's state of New Mexico, because I'll tell you something as a Californian, I'm sort of envious. California spent lots of money on our universities, lots of money on our research. We have some of the best scientists in the world. And as the gentleman from New Mexico knows, our scientists in San Diego developed the ability to create this algae fuel, but sadly, because of California's regulations and the lack of reform in its government oversight, the scientists in San Diego had to pack up and go to New Mexico to be able to produce this product. And the jobs will be created in New Mexico in the production because California hasn't reformed its government regulatory oversight. And I think it's a challenge for all of us to look at that hopefully, as a federal government, will set an example that jobs aren't being taken overseas, because we're quick to write checks and maybe do research, but we're not quick at making the private sector viable to be able to create the jobs that all of us know the American people are desperate for. You know, the algae-based fuel is one of the most promising fuels, Madam Speaker, when we talk about the next generation, second or third generation biofuels. We all know, any reasonable person knows, that the mandates of adding renewable fuels in our fuel stream, the mandate that you cannot sell legally gasoline in the United States unless it has a 10 or 8% by volume content of renewable fuels, that mandate never, ever meant to leave us with first-generation renewable fuels. We all knew that first generation was a necessity, something we had to get through, something that was expensive, maybe not as environmentally friendly as we like, but a transition we hope would come eventually. Algae fuel has the capability of building that bridge to the future to leave the first generation renewables behind and move forward. The fact that algae fuel is not only highly effective, algae fuel equals the fossil fuel 1-to-1 in energy capabilities. The fact is that algae fuel, as it gets developed, is capable of not just driving our cars, but flying our airplanes, of actually replacing diesel. Algae fuel has the capability of totally compatibility with the existing infrastructure. Unlike other fuels, you do not have to ship algae fuel by truck from one location to the other, thus creating a whole new group of environmental and air pollution problems. You can transport it within the pipe systems that exist today. You can refine it in the refineries that exist today. Algae fuel has the capability of being 1%, 2%, or 90% of the fuel stream within the existing infrastructure. It's totally compatible to be phased in. A huge benefit that does not exist with the first generation. Algae fuel has the ability to consume and sequester massive amounts of CO2, something that other fuels do not have the capability of doing along the line at the capability that they have here. And the drop-in capability and the compatibility is something we do not talk enough about. Algae fuels have been tested. We've had one aircraft that flew with the algae fuel and not only was compatible, but was 4% more efficient than fossil fuels of comparable weight and volume. The fact is, Madam Speaker, that we have ability now to even the playing field when it comes to taxes. Why should Washington continue to choose winners and have alternatives that should be allowed to win, hamstringed and punished because they weren't here with their lobbyists years ago when these laws were passed? This bill helps to correct the mistakes made in the past in our tax laws, that where Washington was choosing some to be winners and cutting out other people from participating in the system. We should allow winners to earn the right to be called winners and not be anointed by Washington or the legislators here in Washington. We should allow the technology and the products to compete on an open market, but equal tax benefits for everyone to be able to prove that America allows people to be innovative, to be creative, and we will not punish them just because they went down one technological road rather than the other. Our tax code should be equal, it should be neutral, and it should be outcome-based, not profit-based, and not, most importantly, not Washington lobbying-based. And this bill now equalizes that to some degree. And that degree, I think, is appropriate this time. So it may not be doing everything we'd like to do this week. It's not going to accomplish what I know, we all know the American people want us to get accomplished before January 1 of 11. But it does take a step in the right direction, helps to correct the mistake. And yes, Congressman, I'll go back to talk to Arnold Schwarzenegger and say, damn it, we've got to change our regulations so we can produce this algae in California so you don't get all the jobs from this great technological breakthrough. And I yield back, Madam Chair.